Hello, hello, hello. I see there's already an F in chat. Lovely. Welcome to this one day, I guess, D. DF. There's all sorts of letters. There's all sorts of letters. Oh no. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition, the only day this week. Well, I guess we were on Monday, but of Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands, Quindy, dealing with the F's in chat. Always ready with an F in chat. And, yeah, John's, in the ether somewhere, and who knows where Justin is these days. And then Kiki has given up on me and is back in the other room sulking because I gave her least favorite food today. But yes, that's how we are today. And I'm like, that's how I am today, guys, because I have a lot to do. I have to, at least, I can post my Patreon lesson from the road, but I need to finish it today, especially the photography parts. So, oh, and thank you for the resub, Zachariah. Hold on. I gotta scroll back up and see what I missed. It's probably a lot. My brain took over this morning. I was doing so well. I was like, yes, I'm gonna be on time, and then, and I look at my watch. I'm like, what happened? I know you have those days, Quindy. I know you have the feels for me. I know. Hello, everybody. Yes, I see everybody there. And Zachariah. Okay, Zachariah. Yes, I get to sing. Soon, Zachariah. So good. Kiki is like, she's decided, we have Farmer's Dog, right? And she used to love the turkey flavor. We have turkey and pork and beef flavored, and we'd alternate them. But lately, just something about the turkey flavor, she's decided it's her least favorite, and she does not want to eat it. So I've been playing I'll only eat if game a little bit with her, but like I've just to the extent of I want to get through, like I can cancel the turkey for next order, but I want to get through some of the turkey that we've got in the freezer, so I'm like mixing chicken into it to get through it. And she's still not eating more than half of it, so it's what it is. Your emotes have died because your Prime is expired, but it won't let you renew. Yeah, well, you see, the problem with being a writer is that you sit down, you're like, I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to sit down and idea map this character's pathway for North of the Wind, because I don't have a good handle on it yet. And then I look up and it's like 15 minutes later. I'm like, I was just going to write some things, just some things like that. Yeah, exactly, Cornico. Yeah, whenever you buy a lot of cat food on sale, right? And then they're like, we do not like this flavor. But I figure if I just don't give her the turkey for like a month, and then I can use the last few. Yeah, right. And Kiki's I'm going to be hitting her with that. Like, she's going to be eat it or don't eat it. You're just going to get really hungry. And because I'm not the kind to play the I'll only eat if game, but I do not have enough of the other foods to just switch her to the two other foods. And I want to use up the turkey. So it's like, well, yeah. Then we're going on the road tomorrow, so that'll be fun. So yeah, so I'm trying to figure out if I'm even going to bring a turkey food with me or if I'm just going to bring pork and beef. But yeah, so here we are with our Scribe. And today you can see how tan she is. We really need to add some rosy tones to her skin. The rosy shadow that I mixed in did give her a slightly different, you can see that the skin tone is different, but we really need to push it. We've got that cream on here. And this is true if you're doing like a skin tone on a character that you are also doing like a light leather on, right? So if you had chosen to do a lighter leather, like on Jolie here, it would also be very close to the skin tone, right? So here, this is a little bit of a darker, lighter leather because I wanted it stained and kind of beat up. But if you're doing the really light leather skin tones that you're not using the russet brown to shade with, but you're just using like tanned leather and leather brown, it's gonna definitely have a lot in common with the skin tones because they're both ochre based and there isn't a lot of difference in the light dark in the shade of it. Oh yeah, Turgeon, for sure. I wasn't expecting my brain to start coughing up all sorts of ideas all of a sudden, but I just forget that like morning, like now is Anne's prime brain idea manufacturing time. If you let me add a mind map or four, like right around now, you get tons of ideas. Tons! It's like it's idea time. Won't eat beef, one refuses lamb. Sunshine and spite. Well, 1 second. Allergy pill, Quindy. Allergy pill. Ugh. Dear me. But yeah, so Kiki's decided she doesn't like turkey flavored food, so yep. I've got my window open. I should have known better, but I was like, it's nice and cool and there's a breeze. So we'll see if it really gets me going, then I'll have to close it. But so far the outside is not trying to kill me, it's just trying to clog me up. All right, so when we go to introduce rosy tones into this model, and in person you can see the rosy is a bit different. We're seeing it kind of a little bit muted on camera, or at least on my screen it's a little bit muted. So the skin is rosier than the cream, but the other thing is that they're the same value, right? So they're the same, like this is a little lighter, but once we add highlights to the skin, the value of these, of the cream and the skin, are going to be very, very close. So we could have gone with a darker tan out the gate, and that would have helped, that would have done it, but we didn't think about that, and now we're here, so we're like, all right, we're going to just work with what we've got. Hi, Quindy. But, so we can use any red to create a rosy tone for some of this. Let me see here. That's right. We started out with kind of tanned peachy, and then I added, then I went with the rosy shadow because the tanned and peachy was too orange. Right. I see. It's a good thing I keep cards on this stuff. So we did actually start with a fairly pink skin tone, but it's just not working for me. So I'm going to grab that rosy shadow, and I'm not even going to bother with the tan skin because I want it to go pinky. We can use a magenta color. We can use any red. Any suggestions? Any particular red you want to see me mix with this to create a blush color? And just a general rosiness color. Probably want to go with a little bit darker red. But could go with anything. Could go with violet red, could go with magenta, could go succubus kiss, although that's got a little black in it, so I don't know if that would work, but we could try. There we go, War Shadow, you asked for it. Well, let's see what it does. So we have a lot of magenta and red in this, but they also have a little bit of black. So if it's not too much black, it will work. We'll try succubus. If it doesn't work, we can try violet red. But yeah, you can use pretty much any red unless it has a lot of black. You can use it to create like rosy tones for skin. So busy in the morning, still lurking. That's good, Big Chimpo. Asmodeus red would work also, although it's a little warmer. It'll give you a different feel. I find that cooler reds, Kodiak, can give you maybe a little bit more of a... When you use a warmer red, it's very easy to go kind of bubblegum, kind of very youthful, and she is young, so we could totally go that way. Whereas if you use a kind of a bluish red or a colder red like succubus, you get more of like a mature tone, like not as bubblegum girly. So it really depends. Like it helps if you just mix a bunch of different ones. Like just play with it, maybe go on a wet palette, because wet palettes are really good for this, but get down your skin tone and then put a few blobs of different reds and mix them together. So I'm going to make a big puddle of the rosy shadow. That's right, I decided that the tanned plus peachy was a very good golden skin, like Asian skin tone, but not the skin tone I wanted for this model. So I'm going to just mix up my starting color. Actually, I'm going to put a couple drops of water in it because I don't need it to be thick. So difficulties in working with, as in using them in a color scheme, McBoots, because with blending, I find it very simple. Like, I think that desaturated colors are easier to highlight and shade than intense tones in many ways. Especially if you're trying to do blending. They tend to blend better because they tend to have white and black in them already, so you're not fighting transparency when you're layering up. Color schemes, it's just you've got to mute everything else. Like, people don't realize this. This is one of my color theory rules that I share in every single class I do, because I like to work with muted colors. I mean, if you've looked... Have you seen my miniatures lately? Hold on. Wait a minute. Where is... There. So if you're gonna do it, you gotta mute everything. it's not hard. You're still using the same color relationship rules. But you have to make sure that everything, or almost like, it's got to be muted somehow. Like in here, the pants are still a little bit, this is just a slightly muted model. Like obviously the olive green is an olive, so it's not super saturated. The indigo here is actually, I think I used rich indigo, but I also used like some black indigo and I mixed some white into it to mute it out just a little. Like you don't have to mute it a ton, but you just have to mute it a little bit or it'll start to fight with stuff. And then this red is Asmodeus, but I think I used the indigo also to shade it, so it knocked it down. It's not as bright as it's not a super bright color. And yeah, these other ones, we went with very dark colors for her. And so that mutes it of necessity, right? So I can use a more intense color to highlight with. But everything is knocked down. Everything is muted. Everything is a little grayed out or blacked out, right? Muting is anytime you're not working with a super vibrant color, right? So the thing to remember is you've got to make it all that way. And she's actually, I'm using her as an example in my new PDF. I'm actually doing a PDF for my $2 tier on my Patreon right now about how you can change up like color schemes. Like I talk about a red, yellow, blue color scheme. All the different ways you can do red, yellow, blue. And one of those is how to use it in a muted color scheme. And this is, believe it or not, this is a muted red, yellow, blue color scheme. Because we've got it's a black indigo, but it's still bluish. The bluish color on the bird and the boots, the leather. And then we've got the red, the really muted out red color on the dress. And then you can see the gold here on the sleeve and on this. So this is a muted red, yellow, blue, but everything is muted because it has to be. And like I said, you can use punches of slightly more saturated color here and there for highlighting if you want to, but you don't have to. And then our most muted model we've ever painted, although I haven't finished the basing on her, but I wanted, because she was like a mist walker or a ghost walker or whatever, I wanted that feel. So this is actually a red, yellow, blue muted scheme. Because the red is in the leather and the gold is muted and then the blue is blue-gray. So even when you're working with NMM, you have to keep an eye on this and make sure you don't go with a bright yellow gold on a muted model. It will clash. So essentially, if you want the super easy way to deal with this, mix gray into everything, or mix a little bit of brown into things, or a little bit of black. Depending, you watch out with black because it can obviously give you like a greenish shift when you mix it with yellow. With gold, I do tend to just do that. I tend to use a color with a bit more black as a base and just work it up without adding a lot of I usually add lantern yellow, but if I don't want that intense gold, I won't add as much or I'll add a different color. So those are all muted in different ways. And then another one that we just did that isn't as muted, because the Ghost Walker lady is the extreme. But most of the time, I like to deal with muted color schemes, even though I do a somewhat vibrant one. So this guy's also muted, because his green is a softer green, right? It's got a bit of gray in it. It's not super bright. It's got a little bit of an olive tone to it as well. And then the indigo is also, it's a black indigo. So the black is automatically muting it. We've got grays. Our hair color, although it is orange, it is not a bright color wheel orange, right? So it's automatically a little muted. Obviously the browns count as muted colors, and the gold has been muted out a bit. I'm using more of a brown tone, less of a yellow. So as far as light dark, yes, it does. I'm using color variants instead, critical on that. And that's purposeful because I wanted her to be ghostly, right? When you think about a ghost, with her, what you're doing is using warm and cool. Although the hair, the gold is lighter. So the leather is about the same value as the gray. But you're using the warms versus cools here, is what you're doing. And the gold is lighter, so you are using lights. We've got no darks, except for the leather on the boots is a little bit darker, but that's just happened to be that way. But yeah, we don't have any darks on this figure. Had I been wanting to do that, I probably would have gone with black leather. I might have gone dark or paler with the leggings. But I wanted her, because she was supposed to be ghostly, I had this idea in my head of a model that was not very dramatic in the dress. So you make those choices. But because remember that light, dark, mid rule that I have of alternating, it's to help you. It's a crutch rule. All my rules are crutch rules, and I always tell you you can break them. This is one example of breaking them for concept, which is the way I am most likely to break my rules. Otherwise, I stick to my rules almost all the time because they keep me from doing a bad color scheme or having to repaint something in the middle. But if I want to say, no, I want this model to be more or less even because I want it to be kind of ghosty. I want that feel. I don't want a lot of like dark contrast because I want her to feel misty, right? Like she's walking through a cloud of mist, you'd have a hard time spotting her. And so I'll violate it that way, but then you must do a warm, cool alteration, which is what we've got right here, right? The bone is cooler, the blue is cooler, the leather is warmer, the gold is warmer, the hair is warmer. And then you've got some true neutrals with the skin and the leggings, and the steel NMM. So do you see that? That's so if you choose not to do your light dark alteration, you've got to think about the warm cool is pretty much, and that's warm cool is trickier to pull off. Like people can make mistakes with warm cool. So use with caution, but you can totally use it. Just go slow and try to figure it out, right? But yeah, so this guy is also, like I said, and you can see me using light dark more on this guy too, because the gray is lighter, the cream is lighter, the gold is lighter. You've got a near black with the black indigo and the dark browns here. You've got mids with the green and the reddish and the red hair. So this very much uses an alternate light, dark, mid color scheme. Actually, Jolie is very close too. I mean, his red and his green are close, and the gold, like the leather is slightly lighter, but the only really light thing on Jolie is the silver, right? And the buckles, which since the buckles are on the leather, it helps to push that lighter. And then we do have black on the pants. So, yeah, it's like, but in that case, you are really going with the warm cool, right? So that kind of thing. So, I mean, yeah, I think, so for me, and you now remember McBoots, if you're familiar with Jennifer Haley's work, I grew up with painting with Jennifer. Like when I started painting, we used to hang out when she was in Chicago and I was in Wisconsin. And when I was first starting to get good, like she was a formative influence on me, and she was a very muted painter. Like she did a lot of muted colors, a lot of pastels. At that point, not much vibrant color on her stuff. And these days it depends on the piece from her, right? But she still tends to like muted colors. And I kind of absorbed that, and I kind of learned to like muted colors. And so as I became a better painter, it was natural for me to work those muted colors into my, what I did. And so although I do use saturated colors from time to time, if I feel like it, or if I feel the model deserves it, or needs it, or that's my concept, I still tend to work more muted than not. So I'm not like Luca. Luca does intense stuff. Like he and Robert Carlson, I think, are the two that stand out to me as far as the really pop. Well, and Sergio too. Sergio likes to also pop colors really high with saturation. And I never really got into that style. I did get, paint very saturated earlier in my career when I was doing Golden Demon and very much a GW painter. So, because that was the style. And so I did work with hyper-saturated. But that was before I started, I won my first Golden Demon, and then I started hanging out a lot with Jennifer, and so I started integrating more muted colors. And this is a muted scheme. I mean, the blue is not a super bright blue. I think that muted colors, honestly, Boots, are some of the most beautiful colors to work with. I think that having them in your repertoire is huge because they allow you to create so many different moods. Just when you're trying to create kind of an atmosphere for your work, you can do a much softer or gentler or downplayed or spooky there's so many different emotions emotions you can capture with that palette that are hard to do with saturated, right? But like I said, you also can do both. If your shadows are desaturated, you can still pop your highlights with saturation, and it works fine. I am a muted color painter though when it comes down to it. I like to this guy. I mean, Anubis is a good example. I've got some real bright colors here. I've got this bright orangey yellow. I've got that pop of crimson on his knee and the pops of the crimson up on the top. But this teal is really muted, right? It's really, really muted. It's made by, the greenish tones are, I don't have a bit of green on this model. The greenish tones are made by mixing a buff color into a black teal. So that's really muted. The bone is terribly muted because I've gone grayish with it. So you can do like a muted color scheme, but pop wherever you want the accents, you can pop those accents in. So yeah. Oh, hold on. I missed a question. Have to go up. Granico. Yes, the Ghostwalker does break that for the most part. Although, like I said, I'm using medium and light. I just am not using dark on that one, Granico. Because I wanted that misty feel. But then you've got models like this, which definitely are saturated color scheme, right? Like, the crimson is really popping on her. I'm still using neutrals and muted colors because I love browns, for one thing. And I love creams. And I like to use neutrals to... If I'm going to use like a really poppy red like this, I like to use neutrals to break that up. Because I find saturated colors, if you pop too many of them on the model, it can get busy. I think Luca gets around that because his shadows are so dramatic. He's working on bigger pieces. So he's able to space out those pops of color a little bit better, and he's got a very good grasp of light. And so he's essentially able to focus those pops of color where they should be with the light source, and he's got a lot of dramatic shadow, which gives him neutrals and things like that. So I think Luca's style is very good for very poppy kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, and it's different styles. The colors you choose to work with, and the colors you finally gravitate toward, like you will eventually gravitate toward like a slightly muted, color palette, or a very poppy saturated color palette, or a combo of like a really dramatic poppy but cool muted shadows palette, or a pastel palette, or a very, very muted palette. You're gonna like experiment with all that, and eventually you're gonna just find a suite of colors that you really like for this period of your painting career, and it's gonna become part of your style. So color choices, just like Jennifer Haley back in the around the year 2000, like her color choices were a big part of her style. It was also her smoothness and her blends and the way that her highlights were broader than anything else on the model. Jen had a very broad highlight style, and sometimes I find she still does, depends. Her style is becoming more European lately because she's been painting box art for European companies. So it's very interesting to watch, huh? Oh, poor Luca. Sadness. Uh-oh, Shadow Raven had a sub. Wait. Oh yeah, wisdom teeth are not fun. I've done that. He should be telling the doctors what I did. Oh, and thank you to Affidweir, 45 months. Dang! And 33 for Shadow Raven. Yeah. When I had my wisdom teeth out, they only had to pull, I think, the bottom ones, I think. I told the doctor I wasn't wise enough to have those yet. And for Luca, that counts triple. He is not wise enough to have wisdom teeth yet. So yeah, so everything that all these, and you can break down elements of painter styles, and I was just nerdy enough to really enjoy doing that for a while. It was always fascinating to me to look at a painter whose style I could very much spot right away, and essentially analyze why. I don't know, Jesper. 1 second. Be careful with emulating 2D. I got it. Okay, so yeah, he's using a lot of pastels and a lot of muted colors. Like, some things. Okay, so be careful with 2D and trying to acclimate it. Keekster decided she doesn't like her turkey food, Pendrig, so she's sulking. Well, okay, for the first thing you've got to notice is the big thing, right? The thing I noticed right away in his style, because he's using all these muted colors, but a lot of his composition is the backdrop. And you Won't be able to do that on miniatures unless you start putting backdrops on your figures. So notice how he's using a very muted, much more muted backdrop. And then he is focusing on more saturated colors for his characters. This one's really, really showing you that. I need to get this guy to do my cover art. Dang. Maybe I need to contact him. I wonder, he's probably expensive, but... But yeah, so like this bear, this is why I'm like, this guy needs to do my cover art. But look at, he's using very saturated color where it's important, and the light. See the light? So if you were doing this on a figure, what you'd be doing is, it's almost an interesting variation on Frazetta, right? Where Frazetta used light and shadow, where on his figures, all the light would be up here on the face and chest, and then the extremities would fade. Now, he's doing the same on here, but instead of fading to dark, he's fading to neutral. So then, if you were going to adapt this sort of style, then what you would be doing, you'd be working with a lot of muted colors. You would focus and pop your most vibrant saturation and light on like the face and torso areas, the important part of the model. You'd probably also use warmer colors on the important part of the model, right? Are we seeing that? This one is, and remember that more saturated is also warmer. Like the backdrop here, warmer. He also likes this complementary color schemes. Although this one is not as... Because you've got the yellow. He's going a little bit triadic with this because you've got the blue-green and the orange-yellow. You just don't have red-purple. So he's going a little bit tertiary triadic on this one. I love this piece. I want a poster of this. Thank you for exposing me to this guy. I love this bear. I love this bear. So here, again, we've got, and obviously a lot of these are book covers. They're composed like book covers. I'll need to look at his pricing. Here it's a little different. This is, I think, not as successful of a piece because the skin tones here are the same saturation level as the outer rim. So notice how it makes the characters not stand out as much, except your eye gets pulled to this guy, and you do have a little bit of like warmer brown here. Oh, is it MTG art? I see. Yeah, so that I'd say is not as good a composition. But again, here's this all, but look at all the muted colors. Like he's using just a lot of muted colors, and he's not using a huge amount of light-dark variation. So he obviously likes, like he's in his mids and his lights. So if you paint like this, you're going to reserve your very darkest, your shadows are going to be very small. Notice how small the shadow is here. Of all of this area, and the light is coming from above because you can see it. You can see it right there. But nonetheless, with all of this area, he still has a lot of mid. A lot of it on the surface facing the viewer. And then his darks are very small and pinpointed, like toward the edges. Does that make sense to you as far as analyze that? This is why analyzation of style is super fun. Kinda. I would say that the only thing he has in common with Frazetta are his fade out away from your focal point. Except instead of dark, he's using muted colors. And the other thing he has in common with Frazetta is just the very much putting the dark right up against the light kind of thing. So he's creating sharp edges by, when he does use darks, they're right up against lights. He's using them to define shapes in the composition. Kind of like Sergio uses them on skin to define shapes of like abs, right? And make them really pop. Yeah, it's, I went to art school, but color's my thing, and I always love like analyzing and being a painter. As you progress as a painter, you're gonna start noticing this stuff. Like you'll start noticing, especially if you start out this way, trying to copy an art style. Now here he is using darks, and he's using it to outline the figure, right? He's decided that this figure is actually backlit. You can see it because you can see that bit of light there at the edge of the figure. But he's decided to go, and probably she's a vampire, so he had to go somewhat dark with it, somewhat moody, right? But you can again see he's got the figures in sharp focus. He loves like backlighting and top level light sources. He's picking out that stuff, but it's a very sharp silhouette. He's using his darks to really accentuate the figure. Everything else is grayed out. Like I said, you can't really do this unless you do backdrops, and that is why you see so many models, if you're, over on Putty and Paint or wherever, you see a lot of today's painters doing a backdrop, because it gives you what you have on a canvas that you otherwise don't have in miniatures. So here, you really can't use this trick, the backdrop trick, unless you create a backdrop. Oh, you talked to me about color and composition. I'm on it, Boots. Like, this is what this stream is for. This is what this stream is for. Like, this is what we do. We do learning. And it's not like everybody else who's listening to this can't use all of this information. So, and also, this is just these are great examples as well. Oh, I love this. I love this animal. I want this animal for a pet. Can I have this animal for a pet? I love this animal. Please. Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about asking questions. So yeah, but what you really want to look at... Oh, great. I'm a Sphinx fan. I love Sphinxes. This is wonderful. But yeah, so again, look at this. He's using color. He's trying to drag your eye in, right? So he is using light dark contrast. Again, against a faded background. But look at how he's, again, the paws are kind of graying out. Everything's kind of grayed out. And the important part of the model is here. He's using warmer tones here to pull your eye in. He's using like contrast to create diagonal shapes, that's more miniature composition if you're doing conversions, but you can do that with miniatures. Yeah, I mean, that's it. You can hear something 15 times and maybe it's only by the 21st that it sinks in. This is true of all learning because our brain dumps 75% of what we hear within 1 hour of hearing it. Like just, boom, I don't have enough RAM. I don't have enough hard drive space. We're only remembering 25% of this. And if you don't use it, you'll only remember 10% of it in 4 hours, 6 hours? Like 8 hours later, you'll only remember 10%. Like they've done studies on this stuff. But yeah, so not to say, any art is useful this way. Like, sure. So again, here, yeah, he loves to use, and the reason that he can use the faded out backdrop, I mean, on Magic the Gathering cards is you really, especially with card art, you need to see the one thing, right? You don't care about a backdrop. You just don't care. Like, it's on a tiny card, right? So an elaborate backdrop not only is wasted, but distracting, unless you're painting a land card. Yeah, so... But yeah, here again... So here he's got some lights. Again, he's using lights. His darks, again, are very limited. He's using the light sourcing to pick up highlights. Everything else is very mid, very mid. Like, he's only using... And to pick out this ear, that's where he's popping the shadow to pick out the edge of the ear. Otherwise, the ear would blend in, right? If it was, like, over here. Like, this ear is very much blending in. But here he's got some cool lights. And this is the area that he's trying to accentuate, right? He's trying to accentuate the, gesture and he wants you to see the ear so you understand that it's a goblin, and it's the shape of the head. And the ear there, drawing attention to it, also pulls you over here to the ravens, right? And then you look for the other raven. So this is a fantastic example of using, and he's got warmer colors, warmer and more saturated to draw attention, and lighter. The light is doing that alone. But the oranges in here are also pulling the attention. And then this yellow, even though yellow would be warmer than orange, it's so muted, right? It's browned out, so he gets away with it. And this is an example of muted next to bright, by the way, or less saturated, very muted next to more saturated. But it's made to be a background color. I would say it's not as pleasing to me. Like, I like a lot of his other pieces better, but this is a good example. So... But he's using the light colors and the warm colors to pull your eye here, and he's very skillfully then also using shape, which you only get into when you start doing conversions on model. Once you start doing conversions on models, you can really mess with your composition, as much as a 2D artist. Yeah, he loves his punchy highlights, and part of that is that he's doing small pieces, McBoots. Since these pieces are meant to be seen at a very small scale, it's just like miniatures. Remember how we punch our highlights or punch our shadows because we need things to stand out? Same thing. So yeah, but he does like his punchies, right? He does like his punchies. But this is great. This is just a fantastic example. So cool. Yeah, I love his Sphinx. I love that critter. So the critter here, yeah, everything else is just grayed out around the critter, and then the critter is partially black, so, and you've got shadows. And this is the thing, he loves his backlighting. That's really interesting that he loves that top or side down backlight. So he's painting the front of the model essentially as if it's in shadow, but it stands out because he's doing a pale background. And it would be hard to do this on miniatures. You'd have to paint the back as if it's in light, and that is counterintuitive. That's where painting in the round it doesn't limit us, but you're taking a chance. You're taking a big chance if you do that. Like if you tried to do this in miniature and you tried to do a backdrop on it, that would really foil you, because a backdrop essentially would keep people from seeing the back, which is you'd have to paint as if it's in the light to get that that edge highlighted kind of backlit look. So without a backdrop, you could do it. So it's like with backlighting, you've almost got to not do a backdrop. And I feel like maybe you could get around it, but yeah. And yeah, he really punches. His light is really harsh, is the way I would put it in McBoots. That's why backlit, top lit. So he's using a lot of top light. Like this is a very top light. Not so much backlit, but a bit. You can see it here. And part of that, is when you slightly backlight, you get that white along the edge of the figure. But in miniature, this will be harder, because doing that harsh of a highlight, it tends to, because remember that also, if you can't really, really pull off the backlight, then that harsh of a highlight is not going to be... It's going to be harder to do. Like, we use light on miniatures, and we go up to white to indicate shiny surfaces. Now, this guy is in a wet environment, and so it makes sense that it would go up that far, right? He's obviously a wet beastie. Here we've got a top light, but again, this one's a little jumbly. This one's more like he's creating a light artificially, and it's a light source on the character, so then he's able to do that. But he does good. Remember that pure white highlights, though, they give you visual information, and they usually only denote like a shiny surface. So something that's wet, something that is shiny cloth, shiny metal, shiny skin, that kind of thing. And so here he is doing it where he's not giving us that bright white highlight, except where the light is emanating here. Everything else is much more natural highlighting. He is paying attention to his materials, which I would expect. And here, same thing. Although this is light, it's not necessarily pure white. When you do this, if the model is actually not wet or not meant to be shiny, but you're still bringing your highlights up to white, what it tells the viewer is that you have a very harsh light, like a really strong light. That's how a viewer would interpret that, right? Because lighting is interpretive. Like the way that you highlight a figure tells us something about the textures or the situation that it's in. And if you do this style and you do very hard highlights, what it's telling us is that there's a really intense light from above. But then to do that, you have to be consistent about it. You have to be like, you have to paint everything as if it's got that harsh top light. So... Well, cool. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I love talking about this stuff because I love analyzing style. So, but yeah, he uses a lot of complementary color schemes too. Let's actually look at color. We've got blue-green here. It's a little bit off. Again, he likes tertiaries, I think, because he likes this, both this and the Drake here are both a red-orange and blue-violet. So it's actually a tertiary scheme more than, you could call it red-blue or orange-blue, but it's more indigo and it's more reddish-orange. So those tertiary colors he really likes. Like I said, we have a tertiary color scheme here with the aqua and the yellow-orange. This one, again, is going to be that red-orange, even though the red-orange is pink, and the indigo, right? Same color scheme. So here we're back to teal. It's just, so now we're teal and orange-red. So that is actually more of a complementary, but we've still got that violet. So I don't know. I bet this ends up tertiary. We've got a blue-violet, a green-yellow, and a red-orange. So this is a tertiary color scheme. He likes tertiaries. He does not like simple colors. Here gonna be indigo. That pink is pretty red violet, and we've got a yellow orange, red violet, blue violet. So we have no greens in here. And with a vampire, you wouldn't necessarily want any greens, so that makes sense. So he's going tertiary, but he's splitting it. This one's an interesting one, but he's got, actually this is a green, orange, purple. So green, orange, purple. Technically, again, he's shoving it. He's doing, you could argue that the orange has yellow in it, and the green has blue in it, and the purple, purple is pretty standard, actually. So, yeah, that's a mermaid. I think he's just eating a mermaid or a giant fish. And here we've got a red, orange, blue, purple, except there's a teal. This one's more complicated. This is almost a red, yellow, blue. It's a shifted red, yellow, blue. Like, he does not like straightforward. I can see he pushes the tertiaries a lot. And then this one is more of an analogous color scheme. He still has some gold here. So he's got blue, violet, and this is more of a warm pink, so a red with a hint of orange, and then you've got a little bit of gold. But this is more like the Necromancer, where he's muting out a lot. And then this is definitely like an orange, green, reddish. This is a different one. I mean, probably green, yellow, yellow, green, and orange, red. And if we get any blue, purple, it's going to be in the birds. Yeah, there's a really muted blue to purple. But see how he's muting out almost everything here. Like, so the birds they do have that indigo in them. You can see it. It's right there. But they're very muted out thanks to the lighting. And then this yellow-green is really muted. And most of the red-orange is pretty muted unless he's using it to accentuate part of the model. Yeah, I'm interested if he does book covers. Although if he's mostly a magic card artist, then he wouldn't have experience in it. Although he's done publishing stuff. Yeah, I'd have to see. He doesn't have a link for contact. He probably has more work than he can handle. Yeah, there's lots of magic card artists out there that are cool. He has a weird name, so I just had never heard of it. So yeah. Oh, he's got an agent? Yeah, then I'm not working with him. Agented artists, like, the thing is that when you have an agent, this is true of writers and artists, and pretty much anybody who's got an agent, that agent is typically handling all your business side and contract stuff, but also is taking like a 10 to 15% cut of what you make, and so your prices go up. I mean, I decided to go no agent would take me on for my books, and I ended up being happy about that. I don't know. I could see like how they're very useful with contract negotiations, but you could also just hire an IP attorney for that. So. All right, so actually this is going to be a very pretty pink here. I'm going to share this. I got a little bit of goopies in my paint. I'm going to have to just deal with that. But I mixed some succubus kiss into our rosy skin. That's what we got it. Yeah, birdie's tweeting. I got lots of birdies. Oh, I got goldfinches. I finally have goldfinches at my thistle seed feeder. Cornico. Wait, I have a picture. I have proof. Picture it didn't happen. Hold on. There we go. There they are. So I got this thistle seed feeder. And it's got actually a mix of thistle and sunflower chips in it. Yeah. So I finally have yellow birdies on my yellow birdie feeder. So yeah. Yeah, they're really pretty. I was so happy I got the shot. And I was happy I finally have yellow birds. So now I have red birds and yellow birds. And if I can get the brush jay to come back, I'll have blue birds. Have to have the primary triad. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, Zachariah. Although, it depends, because if you only want them to look at a contract, then they just need to be familiar with the industry that you're in, right? So, like, if I were to get an IP attorney to look at a contract for me, then I'd have to make sure that they're familiar with the U.S. publishing market or international publishing markets. But more yellow. Much more yellow. Yeah, well, that one is obviously the boy and his girl. But yeah, these are very yellow. That boy there, he has a super bright, like, he's super bright yellow. But yeah, they're very pretty. I like them. Oh, is it your state bird? Cool. But yeah, I am not even in the situation where I need an IP attorney. The only time I would need an IP attorney is if I were to get an offer from a traditional publisher, and I would have to sell a lot of books before that happened, guys. And the only other thing is international publishers will often approach you if they see your book and they think it's a good fit for their catalog. So then you want an IP attorney to take a look at that. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Now, I'm not a slouch myself in, like, understanding standard contract terms in the industry, so I doubt I get taken advantage of because I keep an eye on that stuff, but, you know. All right, so I've got kind of this kind of pale raspberry color almost. I'm going to try to put that on here and see what I can do. A lot of artists, and this happens, you get rosy tones around the joints. So a lot of artists will introduce, and it's not nearly strong enough. Want a sharp cookie? That's old. Prince, I do work for Reaper. I'm part-time now. For a long time, I was full-time. I actually created Reaper's Master Series paint line back in the day. And then I mixed almost every batch by hand for 17 years. Then I met a guy and got divorced. I got divorced, and then I met a guy, and then I moved out west. So now I only work for Reaper part-time, streaming this stream every weekday, except I'm going to be gone for a week coming up, so I won't be back till next Wednesday. But after that, it's every day, 11:30 USA Central Standard Time. But yeah, so I'm their paint lady, and also their color guru. We spent a lot of, I don't know if you were tuned in for the first part of the stream, but we spent a lot of time analyzing, like, art style, how you would take a style from a traditional painting and try to adapt it to miniature painting. So if you're interested in that, definitely catch the VOD. We talk about a lot of that stuff on here because this is really, though I do paint things on this show, it really is about more education, so. Oh, I'm actually, I don't work at headquarters anymore, Prince, sorry. But John watches this show every once in a while. Sometimes he listens in while he's doing molds. We'll have to tell him. If you're listening, Prince Paradox says you, like, are totally adorable and you have a nice beard. He works, I believe he spends a lot of time on his beard, so I'm sure he'll be gratified. Most men I know who have beards do spend a lot of time on them. So we're getting those rosy tones more around the knee. I want them there. Yeah, we do paint here from time to time. Oh, thanks, NetJam. Yeah, I released them upon the world because I wanted a paint line that worked with my style. So, like, totally self-serving and all that. But they also they remain very different from every other paint line in the industry. And I'm happy about that. Like, I was always alert while I was still working in the paint department. Whenever a new line of paint from a competitor came out, I'd nab it and kind of analyze it, run it through its paces to kind of see what they were going for. But the fact remains that a lot of mini paints, like, they will go for coverage and sacrifice some utility in doing so. Because there's just some things with high coverage paints, some sacrifices that you make. Whereas I went more for, like, color and usability, utility, and if I could get good coverage, I would. But some colors they're just gonna go transparent no matter what you do, and transparency is useful once you're past the base coating stage. So no matter what you do. I mean, even if you're just doing zenith lighting, you want your paint to be a bit transparent. Otherwise, you're going to lose your zenith. If you're doing underpainting or textures, same thing. So yeah, it's a different beast. I'm glad you like it. It's still the paint line, even though nowadays I have other paint lines I like. I like the Scale Color Artist tube paint a lot. And I've been working with the Chimera colors recently. So look at how now, guys, after putting that pink in, look how different. Like, look at how the skin up here looks like it's really washed out and kind of toward the same color as the cream. All I did down here was put in shadows in the pink. Look at the huge difference in the skin tone. Yeah, I tend to mix. Like, even if I'm using Scale Color or I'm using Chimera, I'm mixing them with MSP because there are still qualities to the MSP that I like and I want kind of usually with the Scale Color Artist, it's or the Chimera, it's that there's a pigment that I want to use, but I'll often grab an MSP that's close in color and hue and just mix a little bit of that in because I just like the texture of it better and I like the finish better. So yeah, but yeah, look at how different that makes everything look. Like, and I didn't touch the outside of the leg. It's the same color. But because of that shadow, look at how much rosier, look how much that pushes the color. So, yes, we will now do that with the rest of the figure. Often people do a lot of red tones around fingers and hands that we do have. You can see rosy tones there, even around my fingers. You can see more rosy tones toward the tips of the fingers. Yeah, the So Flat line, I got one to mess with it. I think I'd want a little more life in it. I haven't messed around totally with it. I did do a thing when somebody earlier mentioned it on I think a stream a couple of weeks ago. I whipped it out and analyzed it real quick. Just in line with what I tend to look for in a paint. And qualities that I noted that it had when I messed with it. Once you know what you're dealing with paint lines, it's pretty simple to kind of say, oh, this is what they were going for, and this is what their paint's going to do when I thin it, and that kind of stuff. So just popping in some tones here. Obviously, there's often some rosier tones on the chest. So we'll pop. I'm doing a little bit of wet blending here rather than thinning my paint a lot, just because I want to get it kind of blocked in and take a look at it. So now we're starting to pull that. But yeah, So Flat's line seems cool. I got the raw umber because it's actually a pigment that and a color that I don't find in other paint lines. And really, it doesn't matter what you use. I mean, all that matters is that the line you use fits your style. And it is worthwhile experimenting with different paint lines to see, to figure out what your favorite colors are. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, the palette that you tend to gravitate toward becomes part of your style. We all change that as we work as painters. Like, we'll go through, just like canvas painters, just like, what Picasso went through a blue phase, didn't he? Like, we all, go through that kind of, I'm enchanted with this color right now kind of thing, right? And then we evolve as we get a little sick of that color, or we learn how to put it through its paces, then we go on to something different. So the colors that you are initially, really, you use a ton of, they'll define your style for a while, but they eventually will give way to others, right? I find that when I use the pure pigment lines, like the So Flat Pop and the Chimera, I do tend to paint more saturated because it's easier, because that's what it is. It's sitting in my palette and it's super saturated. But I still, because I like to mute stuff, sometimes that just annoys me a little, and I end up going back toward Scale Color Artist and MSP, where I could grab just a muted color right out and just work with it. Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, blue and blue-green, it probably means that, you know, if you developed a style or as you're developing a style, that's people are going to notice that you gravitate toward those colors. Purple and gold were mine for the longest time, but as I paint on this stream, I obviously paint a whole bunch of different color schemes because we can't always just paint in the rut we're in. I would say I'm still in a purple phase right now, although my purples are getting a little more subtle, like my Tyranid color scheme. Definitely it's purple, like, changed with some other stuff. And, like, Anubis has purple. He has a lot of purple. The red is shaded down to purple, right? But the red is, the light is what you see there. So, because the purple's muted, you don't notice it as much. But I still snuck the purple in there. I got some liner mixed up because I want to clarify this area right in her, the top here by her chest. Yeah, well, MSP is it's a big line, right? So that's somewhat prohibitive to stores sometimes, especially if they don't order direct from Reaper. I've just gotten used to stores around me not carrying it, and I just order online now. But I don't even know, like... Yeah, I guess it would be Game Castle, and Game Castle doesn't carry MSP out here. I guess each Game Castle owner probably has a choice, but the problem is that, like, the Game Castle closest to us already has, and this is what you run into, is they've already got 5 or 6 paint lines. They don't have the room for another one. They don't have the money for another one. The ones that they have already, a couple of them don't move at all, right? So that was actually the game store that I used to paint at all the time back in Madison, Wisconsin. That was what, I mean, I knew the owners, and they were still like, yeah, we just can't, we don't have the room. We've already got 5 paint lines. It's like, oh, well. So when even your friends tell you that, you just, like, you know, kind of shrug and go, all right. Just wanted to re-emphasize that line there and shade a little bit down there. I'm going to grab some of this. Actually going to mix brown liner in to create kind of a taupe color for the skin as it goes down there, that section, like under her breasts. I want to get a little bit of a shadow color in there that's based on the brown liner without being the brown liner. Something that is more like this. And I'm using the skin tones to mix it because then it's going to look like a natural shadow. Well, it's because the lines are huge, though. Right. See, that's the thing, Kodiak, is like, honestly, Ed wanted to not be dependent on distribution. And distribution is, you know, still the model for many game stores. That's why Reaper has a B2B, you know, thing that where they try to reach out to game stores. But we do have an awful lot of products, and a lot of game stores are already kind of squeezed for space, right? So I understand it. I can be sad about it. But that's why our internet is booming so much. And don't be affronted on Reaper on it, because honestly, we make a better margin when you order on the website. I mean, Reaper will essentially get more from the sale. All right, so just kind of like darkening that in, getting the everything. A lot of your stores carry the minis, not the paint. Yep. Yeah, NetJam, and that is very true. Being the person that created the paint, I can tell you that is extremely true. You will always get the freshest batch ordering direct from Reaper. Like, that's why it's another reason I tend to do it. Not just because, but... So we're bringing in a little bit of highlight here. So now I've got more, and you can see how the color is shifting again, how flat and how beige this looks compared to that. I'll move up onto the face. I still haven't smoothed that out really, that area, but we can get there later. I mean, separation isn't itself a bad thing, and all paints separate if they sit. And some just separate faster than others, and some will latex faster than others, i.e. they'll turn from that separation into a plug at the bottom of the paint. But that takes typically a couple of years at least. For MSP, it takes a lot of years. It's honestly more prevalent in high coverage paints because they tend to use a base with a thicker resin. So I'm using my grayish color to kind of put in some shadows underneath the brow ridge here. Because it saves time, McBoots. I used to paint everything dark to light. And I still do many colors dark to light. But what I realized, because I was painting for eBay and I was painting for gaming, what I realized after I tried the mid-tone shadow highlight is that the problem is when you start with shadow, you then have to go over a lot of area with your mid, right? You have to cover up a lot of what you started with, and that takes time. Whereas if you start with your mid and you paint your shadow in, you're just covering a little bit of your mid with the shadow. You don't have as much to go over the top, and you're not fighting with transparent paints trying to bring the color up from that dark color. And then highlights are, the same with either of those. But the big difference is that when you start dark, you have to cover at least 50%, 75% of what you just did. You're going to cover it over with your midtone. You're going to have to blend it in, and you're going to have to make sure your midtone isn't affected by the fact that you started dark, which is naturally going to pull your midtone darker, and it's going to also result in a darker look on your figure. You have to really bring the mid and the lights up to battle that. Eventually, you get kind of to the same look where you started. You can get to that look, but if you try base coating a dress in like a dark red or dark red brown that you would normally bring up to red, and then start with like a medium-ish red, and you'll see the difference right away. Your reds are going to pop a lot more if you're painting saturated. Like your reds are going to be bright out the gate, and it's going to save you time. So it really affects the color. Unless you're using black primer. If you're using black primer, then everything is going to be dark, right? But then you probably are starting dark working light. So, right. I just felt like it wasn't necessarily a speed thing for me, Hyper Bunny, but I could have been doing fun stuff or painting another model already. Like it's just when it's a hobby, if I start dark and I have to put all that extra time into it, then I'm like, I could have been onto the fun stuff already, so it's not necessarily that if you want to speed paint, but it's also like where do you want to spend the time on the model? Do you want to spend the time base coating over the top of your dark? Or do you want to spend the time doing the fun stuff? Yeah, this has been an extreme, style crafting, theory crafting, this is a very high value stream. If we could star a stream on the, on Reaper's YouTube and stuff, if we could give it a star and say, if you watch no other Anne stream, watch this one, this is probably the episode that I would give that to. I'm going to put in a lot of this pink. I'm going to put a lot of it all over the nose. And I'm just going to blob it in. I'm not going to be finesseful about it at all. Right, and so if that's true, Hyper, then just do it. I mean, I did it for ages. It got to the point where I was actually not enjoying it as much. And it will, like I said, though, do keep in mind, it'll change some colors a lot, right? But yeah, I'm not here to try to get you to paint like I do, but I do want you to understand, make sure everybody understands, this is the result, right? Your colors will tend to be darker unless you put a lot of time into highlighting them. And we'll be spending a little bit more time on that stage. But if you enjoy that stage, then rock it. I still paint dark to light on some things, some colors, usually whites. But even here, it's more like I start with a mid-dark, bring it up, pop a darker shadow onto it, and then, so I'm not starting like super dark anymore. The only times I start super dark, I don't have it here, but like if I'm trying to do really dark reds, like this guy, he's not done. But like I will start near black at that point and just slowly bring my reds up. So it depends very much. Of course, the other thing is, depending on your color, it will be harder to blend. As Kodiak, it's not just you, Kodiak. If it's blues, especially. So I'm putting a lot of rosy tones here on her nose, on her cheeks, under her eyes, just to bring the more of that pink in. Yeah, but you don't need to these days, McBoots. Like, going to college for art, and I say this as somebody who went to art school, I'm going to say flat out, I learned more about painting from painting miniatures than I ever learned in art school. I'm I shit you not. sorry, internet. Sorry, swearing. But I did. And I was very disgruntled with my art school education as a result. Like, in art school, you're going to be at the mercy of the instructors who you end up getting. You are going to learn essentially a narrow range of technique and ideas based on those instructors. You're going to get a lot more out of it if you do your own independent study into things that interest you. And there are so many resources. There are so many great artists out there right now that have freaking online courses. If you apply yourself, you learn 20 times more than you can in art school. I'm just saying. Absolutely true. My personal experience. Well, yeah, but I mean, what kind of job? The thing is, okay, what kind of job are you going to get with this? I mean, I don't know. I am the freelance like Anne, so I'm like, ad jobs, advertising jobs, which are a lot of the graphics jobs and art jobs nowadays. They're high pressure with low return, relatively speaking, for the amount of stress that the job entails. That's why I actually didn't go into it. But Anne swore and Luca wasn't here. Yep, I know. But yeah, I mean, question what kind of job you want in the arts. A lot of jobs in the arts do not require the stupid piece of paper. And if you want like a corporate type job in the arts, then yeah, probably. But I don't know, not as much anymore. It depends on if you're able to produce a body of work on your own and you have a portfolio. I mean, if you get a degree in something else, honestly, but you work at art as a freelancer and you make some success out of it and you have a portfolio, I think, I don't know, it's not as much of a barrier as it used to be. Let's just say that. Honestly, it's working in advertising. It always has been, McBoots. But now, it's painting big. It's painting big. Piathagosaurus. Sonosaurus. Piathagosaurus. Piathagosaurus. Yeah, Piathagosaurus. Or something. Piathagosaurus. Yeah. But I mean, there isn't a lot of money in art. The funny thing that I always said, McBoots, is that I probably have made more income, out of my career as a miniature painter than any of my classmates from art school who may have gone on to be more traditional artists make. So we don't put any red tones on foreheads because this is really close to the bone, and you generally will see more of a yellow tone on a forehead. You won't see the red hues. The red hues are usually the blood vessels around the nose, the blush here, the lips. Then just put it back in you can look up online, Pendrake, how to mark it to return, delivered to wrong address. They do that all the time around here. Gallery, museum, shows, and sales. Yep. Yeah, I'd say that's still pretty fair with way. Like college is like time. It is time to network. It's true. So if you're going that route, and yeah, as a gallery owner, you probably can make some decent money, but you're not actually being the artist. Then you're curating, right? Then I would just shred it, or I would say, or you can look up online. There may be some way to market that way. Because what I find mail carriers do with us, because we were getting mail from somebody who also had a bogus address that did not exist. It's like it would be the house halfway between two houses on our street. I don't remember what to mark it as, but we did find some way to get it to the post office and let them know address does not exist. But just do some Google, you'll find it. The post office has specific ways to mark things to let them know. I mean, well, I mean, if you think about it, base coat, wash, highlight is mid, dark. Yeah, it's a mid, dark, and highlight. I mean, essentially what I would do, Hyper Bunny, is, I mean, this is why the Reaper Learn to Paint Kit does teach you the base coat and wash and highlight method, because those are viable techniques that are useful. So you want to teach them how to do washes, because when you're starting out, a wash gives you an easy win. It defines everything with minimal work, and it gives you the ideas of what shadows look like on a miniature. And it's a useful technique, because once you know how to wash, you can learn glazing, right? You're learning to thin your paint. So I think it's a really good idea to teach them that, but then also teach them the whole paint your midtone, and now let's paint in our shadows. Oh, we saved a lot of work because we didn't have to go back over our wash for everything. Because some people are going to be like, I really don't like washes. And then, okay, full steam ahead with everything else. And some people are going to be like, oh my God, I love washes. I have to use them all the time. Valid. Do it. I did it for years. It didn't hurt me. Yeah, and the reason that the wash is good is that it gives them with not too much effort, it gives them a great result. Because the most frustrating thing in the world is when you don't understand shadows and you're trying to figure out why your miniature looks so flat. I mean, that's how I started. So, and washes do work for some stuff, right? So you don't want to deny them that tool in their toolbox. Boy, my voice is going because I've been talking nonstop this episode. But yeah, I mean, I would do it. If you look on my Patreon, honestly, I've got a PDF on there. It's in the public post. I believe it is. But it's the techniques that I recommend in the order I recommend teaching them. And base coat, wash, so base coat and washing are up there at the top of that. Yeah, I mean, wrong being, a heavy word for that. Doing something like that didn't give you the best result, so that then you learn to get the result you were aiming for. I don't like the word wrong, because a lot of people, they batter down on that, and they're just like batting down on that, and they're like, oh, wrong, I don't ever want to use a wash. And it's not, even I use washes, even I use dry brushing, right? It's like, I used to be really, really down on dry brushing, but the fact is, you can use it to create certain effects. Do I use it often? No, less than 1% of the time. But it's good that I know how to do it, because I reach for it every once in a while. So, but yeah, I would say more that like something is wrong, or something's going on that you weren't aiming for, or something's not reading right, is the way I tend to put it. But yeah, that's just my like personal thing, because wrong is a very heavy word for me. If you tell me something's wrong on the miniature, oh, it's bad. It's an emotional reaction. If I say, this isn't reading quite right, that's a lot more even, and you can open your mind and say, oh, okay, what do I need to do to improve it? I personally, and I experience people who get kind of like really sad. They'll get upset, or they'll get unhappy, or they'll want to throw the miniature out the window if you tell them it's wrong, right? So just saying, that's why I like focused in on that word with laser precision. That's just me. If you want to use wrong, you can use wrong on your own work. Just be careful if you ever have to critique somebody. Because, yeah, people can really react strongly to that word. And I don't know, I feel like, I guess the other reason I react strongly to it is that, like, a lot of people use it when it's not true. It's not wrong. I was not targeting you. Don't you dare. I was not targeting you. I had problems with critique for a long time, and I went to freaking art school. Yeah, if you're painting fast, NetJam, do it. But if you, I mean, the time to do it, honestly, as somebody who has painted armies in the past, and has problems finishing them, embrace the fast for all your mooks. Like my termagants, they are very fast, and I start with a wash on them. But when it comes to painting my hive tyrant, that's when I'm going to put the washes aside, not use them, and use all my other techniques to make the hive tyrant look good. I mean, that's the same thing if you're painting for D&D. Use washes on all your little guys, and then when you come to the big baddie that you want your players to like really go about, then spend some extra time on it. Or exercise both your muscles, I guess is one way to say it. Yes, correct. Yeah, reading. Yeah, isn't reading correct? Yeah, exactly. That's because our eyes are always better than our execution. Ira Glass has an excellent talk on that. To paraphrase, and this is like something that every artist should read, and or there's freaking Ira Glass, The Gap. Hold on. Wait, we're gonna do this. Hold on. Where is it? Alrighty. There's a lot of things. All right. Is it all in here in its entirety? Yes. All right. We're going to read this because it's important. Anybody batten down. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners, and I wish someone told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there's this gap. For the first couple of years you make stuff, it's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. So again, it's that whole, she understood that the nose wasn't right, but she wasn't sure how. Yep. Your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase. They quit. Most people I know who do interesting creative work went through years of this. We know our work doesn't have this special thing that we want it to have. We all go through this. And if you are just starting out, or if you are still in this phase, you got to know it's normal. And the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week you finish one story or one miniature, or every 2 weeks, whatever works for you. Some people don't have a lot of time, right? It is only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap and your work will become as good as your ambitions. And I took longer to figure out how to do this than anyone I've ever met, he says. It's going to take a while. It's normal to take a while. You've just got to fight your way through. Ultimate best paragraph on creativity and creative work in the history of the human race. Seriously. This is Ira Glass. So Ira Glass, I-R-A, and then the last name is Glass, like a glass window. And you want to find it, it's called The Gap. So if you type Ira Glass, The Gap into Google, you will find it, find a printable version, frame it, put it on your wall. Everybody needs to remember this. Yep. Yeah, so you gotta put it on your wall, read it, remind yourself, tell yourself it's good, tell yourself your taste, your eye is killer. Your eye is killer, everybody. All of you. You know what you want. You know the thing. You know the thing you want your work to be. And it's just painting. It's just painting. Just doing the volume of work that will pull you closer and close the gap. That's it. Quindy, we need to star this episode. Oh yes, take care. Take care, Turgeon. Bye. Yes. Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, so I think this is like a banner episode. I think this really is the episode where if you watch one episode, watch this one. Can we do something like pin this stream to the top of the YouTube? Or make it like the watch this stream? Because like, especially ending on an up note, like this is the stream. If I could just frame and put on my wall one of my streams, this is the stream. And I don't want this stream to get like buried in the middle of 50 zillion other streams. Yeah, add it to featured. Because there's a lot to unpack in this stream. Can we do that, Quindy? I think the episode title should be, if you only ever watch one stream, this is the stream. I'm going to get rosy tones up here on the fingers too. Because not only did we like paint a bit, we did so much more. We talked about color theory and composition. We analyzed 2D art as opposed to 3D art. We came up with like the best creative quote ever and like, you know, talked about stuff. Yeah, for sure, Korniko. Yes, it's true, Kamiko. We love you though, Kuro. But yeah, so all that. Remember the gap, guys. Remember the gap. What was I? There was one other thing I was thinking about talking about. Dang. I just don't remember. This is such a good stream. Thank you all for being here. I even cussed. A reminder that I will be out of town for the next 6 days. So I will be back next Wednesday. 1 week from today, we will be back and we'll be painting. We'll be trying to finish up Kathy. We've got still an NMM. We got the sword and the shoulder. But I feel like the rest of it is coming together really well. Yeah. So we'll be doing that when we come back. Let me think. I'm just thinking what I might want to do. I think I'm going to put some rosy tones around the base of the neck just to bring it all together. But yeah, so there we go, folks. This is the and thing. This is what we do. Oh, I forgot to give book update before Turgeon ran away. Bummer. My editor has my book and he's already emailed me twice. I love this guy. Like, he's seriously, he better stay an editor for life because I always want him on my team. I'm going to do a little bit more red back here. Again, back of the knee, just a little bit. And maybe it's not quite proper, but you need to put it in somewhere. So I'm going to just use it to shade almost in a weird way. Just to bring just a little bit of that hint of red in here. Oh, I remember. Yeah, so talking about careers in art, yeah, gallery stuff and everything. I mean, the chance of getting famous, the chance of being an actual artist and having your work go super big, it's vanishingly small. Miniature painting, oddly enough, is lucrative if you have the temperament for it. I mean, with Patreon and all the rest, there are several artists who do make over 40K a year. It does take a lot of work and a lot of audience building. But I always felt, because I looked at my friends who were trying to make it, and even people I meet, like at the Renaissance Fair and everything, with their booths and or at craft fairs. I have friends who are artists who are, trying to make it. And if you live in, I have a friend in Santa Fe. It's a very artistic city, and she's been there for a lot of years, and they managed to make ends meet by doing like the art fairs and the art shows and the weekly art booth, like the weekly art art market. It's next to their farmers market, but they managed to make ends meet. So yeah, then it's hard, McBoots. if you're looking for a time you can just do your art and sell it and make a lot of money, you'd have to get lucky. I mean, there's no harm in trying. There's no harm in getting good and then seeing if your work takes off. I mean, I'm at the point right now, I do not make $40K a year. I probably make 30. Between my Patreon and coaching and Twitch, and honestly, if I put a lot more time into it, I could grow that probably. It's taken me a long time to get to this point, because it's all audience building at this point. Yeah, I mean, yeah, getting the art degree and the art history degree and working in a gallery or in a museum, that could be fun. I always thought it'd be fun. And then if you're going to do that, then you want to either work somewhere else and raise the capital to start your own gallery. You're going to want to live in a town that is really known for art. Again, Santa Fe comes to mind, but like David and I always go down to Carmel, which is near Monterey in California, south of Monterey. And it's a huge art community. Their downtown is filled with galleries. And people go there to find art. And that's the thing, right? But starting a gallery is very expensive. Working in one, a lot of gallery owners these days, post-pandemic, are mostly working by themselves. They may have one employee, so that could be hard. But it's not impossible. Like, just because a thing is hard does not make it impossible. When I went out to start my Patreon, I had so many people tell me that I shouldn't do it. Like, oh, you'll never do it. The market is flooded. There are too many Patreons. It'll never work. We're really worried about you. All that kind of stuff. People say it because they're worried about you, right? They're worried about, they don't want you to be homeless and on the street because your Patreon didn't work, right? They don't want you to leave your nice cushy job at Reaper that you've had for 17 years and go herring off into the unknown with nothing but a part-time paycheck and a Patreon. But I did. I did it anyway. And I knew going into it, the thing to understand is that going into any career in the arts is going to take a while. So I knew going into it was going to take me years to build up my Patreon. You know, it was going to take time. And things like that. Matt DiPietro would love that, Mick Boots. Like, he's continually frustrated that the art community doesn't think miniatures are art. Like, he would love to see galleries of miniatures springing up across the world. Maybe someday. But it'll take somebody making it their religious cause, and nobody has yet. Yeah, bad self-talk. That's kind of why I said watch that word wrong. Because if you tell yourself that you've done something wrong, we tend to feel bad, right? It feels bad, man, folk, type of thing. And so more like, this isn't reading right. Like, how can I fix it? That kind of thing. Just watch what you say to yourself. Watch what you say to yourself and others, and any weird little psychological implications they may have. But yeah, it's not that any of this stuff is impossible. It's just difficult. And so you've got to make sure that whatever road, but don't just sit there and think about roads. Like, take a step and see if it's the right one. Because if you just sit there trying to think about your different roads and which one you should take, you're going to sit there until you're, an old person, and then you're going to be sad that you never, took a chance on something. So take a step, and that step does not involve, quitting your job. That step could just be, finding a local gallery that needs help and asking if you can, Yeah, I mean, and it's not so much, just do it can be also have its own moments where it's like, sometimes you can't just do it. But you can always find a small step that you can take in the direction that you think you want to go in. And if you're not sure where to go, then do a bunch of different steps and see which one really resonates with you. The big thing is you don't want to stagnate. You want to keep moving in your life and figuring out what's your thing, the thing that you really need/to do in your life. But yeah, Yes. I mean, I have several worlds that I function in, the miniatures world, the dog world, and the writing world now. And I mean, they've all been... That's the other thing, is sometimes you don't have the one thing. Sometimes there are several things throughout the course of your life. Like, I spent a good decade really focused on the dog stuff, and now I'm backing off of that, and I'm focusing on my writing instead. And the writing is what I've always wanted to do, so chances are that's what's going to get the lion's share of my time for the next decade or two or more. It might be the thing. We'll find out. All right, so we've blocked in all our rosy tones. You can see that the skin is not nearly as flat anymore. It definitely is reading as different from the cream, which is what we set out to do today. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it at this point. So we use Succubus Kiss mixed with some Rosy Shadow, with the main skin tone being a mixture of Rosy Shadow, Tan Skin, and Peachy Flesh. Yeah, and also they're marketed as toys, Sagebrush, right? A lot of them are marketed as toys. Even Germ, George R. R. Martin always complained. He's like, he had to, his people had to mark his boxes as like toy soldiers. Like, nobody understood what it was. Yeah, the rose has really pumped up the skin tone, the rosy color that we made. Yep, for sure. So don't forget those red tones if you're working on a Caucasian type skin tone. You do want to use them also on dark skin tones. You're just going to be using a much darker red. And you're not necessarily mixing it, although maybe you can. It depends on the red, it depends on the skin tone. Where is my book? Book. Color mixing recipes for portraits. Especially useful. I put out a PDF on this, equivalents, MSP equivalents for artist colors. I put that out at some point. And so it is out there, and you can use that with books like this. Let me find the dark skin tone that I was looking for. All right, so yeah. So this page is great. I've showed it before, but then we've got kind of like a fair skin tone palette, plus white, of course. But with the dark skin tone palette, like a burnt umber to bronze, you're looking at alizarin crimson, which is a very, very dark red for your red tone. And that's what you would mix in to your skin tones that you make using the rest of these. So yeah. So you can still do this with dark skin tones. You just want to choose dark red. Yes, Ira Glass. Oh boy, I don't know, McBoots. It depends on, first you got to network and get those artists to like know who you are and trust you. I don't know. You'd have to pay for the space. I don't know how I'd do it. I mean, the problem is that you almost are better on consignment. I mean, that's how art galleries work. Generally, the painter paints something or a couple of somethings, and they offer it to the gallery, and the gallery says, "Yeah, I think I can sell this," and they put it up, and maybe it sells in 2 months, maybe it doesn't sell for a year or two, and they say, "Yeah, this one's not moving. You know, do you want it back? Do you want to replace it with something else?" That kind of thing. You'd really need. Yeah, there's a PDF. Artist equivalents in my Patreon. I think it's the $5 level. Pretty sure it is. But yeah, Boots, it's just, there's a lot of logistics there. You'd really need the right town for it. Like location would be everything. I mean, I used to go, there was a place that had stuff from the St. Petersburg studios, they do the pre-painted historical stuff. And I used to love, whenever I found a shop that had their painted stuff, I used to love to look at it. So, I mean, but you almost, like, I almost want to say someplace like Chicago. Because Chicago has a huge miniatures population. Like it's got Adepticon. It hosts one of the largest miniature painting and longest running miniature painting and gaming conventions in the world. Um, so you want somewhere like that. You want somewhere that's a hub that people would actually be in, that has a high population of people interested in miniatures. Well, not so much, McBoots. I mean, you don't have to have super high priced miniatures. In fact, you'd probably do your bread and butter would be miniatures that weren't priced that high. Oh, you have a very high opinion of what a good 75 millimeter is worth. Way lower, man. This is actually what a lot of painters complain about, is that commission work people aren't willing to pay. I don't know what David paid for that bust from Kirill. And Kirill's like the best in the world. Kirill's a painting god. But it was under $1,000 and it was a bust. And David was aghast at how low the price was. You can get miniatures from the top painters in the world for under $1,000. Now, you'd have to mark them up, right? If you were buying, and you'd also want to mark them up slightly because you got to take your cut as gallery owner, and that has to pay for your rent and you're keeping the lights on and your income. But remember also the basic law of economics. If you make it too high priced, you have a very small market of people who can afford it. If you make it moderately priced, you open up your clientele a lot more. So that's why this is difficult. That's why no one's done it. Is you've got to hit the sweet spot. You've got to have the right place. You've got to have an online store. For sure, you've got to have an online gallery. Every good gallery these days has an online site so that people can look and shop from afar. But yeah. All right, we are actually 20 minutes after. I'm surprised that a dog has not come to attack me. Yep, total bargain at 800 is for sure. If it's on eBay, it's somebody reselling something they bought from that artist. So they might be taking a loss just because they want to liquidate it. Yeah, so now you have an idea, McBoots, but it's a whole world out there. And what I would almost recommend you do, if you have money, is to contact your favorite miniature painters and commission something. You'll find out what their price ranges are. It'll give you an idea. Yeah, but it's always a buyer's market. Yeah, it's always what it's worth, and in any art field, it is worth exactly as much as someone will pay for it, and no more and no less. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I see. Well, then the people you've been talking to are definitely raising the prices. Well, and if they're getting 2K McBoots, then awesome. But some of them aren't. Many of them aren't. And it also depends, I'll qualify that. If it's got heavy conversion or sculpting on it, the price tag will go up. Also, if it is a Best in Show winner at World Expo, I know the going rate for those tends to be, depending on if it's a scratch sculpt or not, it's between 10 or 20K. But we're talking about the special snowflakes of the miniatures world at that point. I got offered $1,000 for one of my pieces once. So it's not undoable, but you gotta, those are the exceptions, I think. Those are the exceptions. Sagebrush C. My wife makes purses. When asked, she replies, "You can't afford me." Yep. No, I didn't, Bryce, because it was my first Golden Demon winner. I walked off the floor after winning my demon, and I had somebody offer me $1,000 flat on the spot. And I was broke, dead broke, starving artist at the time, and I still turned it down because it was my first Golden Demon winner. I mean, the first thing in anything is a business plan. So if you really want to do it, then you gotta put the time into actually planning it. See how doable it is. But like I said, it probably involves moving from where you are, unless you live in a place that has a high concentration. Because you want, like ideally with a gallery, you have a place that gets a lot of foot traffic. Because you also are going to expose people to the hobby, right? To the art form. So. Yeah, some do paint for free. It's true. And as part of the learning process, it's fair. I mean, I painted for free until I figured out that I could be making $25 a model back in the day for my like gaming paint, good gaming paint jobs. That was way back in the day. And then I started making, 50. And then I started doing eBay and making 100, right? So but yeah, it's a weird market. Yeah. I mean, if you move to a place that gets a good gallery space and like has a decent miniatures community, chances are somebody like with a good name is going to be somewhere near you. And yeah, workshops is another way that you can turn around money out of a gallery. So, but yeah, yep. At that point, you just got to sit down and start mapping out. Like, the first thing to do is to figure out where or how much, right? How much of a budget, and find a likely spot. But like I said, there's definitely cities where the art world gathers. And there's usually one in at least every state. May not be as big. Like, I'll tell you, Carmel is a huge spot here in California for art. But, I mean, there was a place in Arizona that I went once that was Jasper, that was full of artists. That town was full of artists, and people would go to buy art. They would go to the town. So, yep. Learn the market. Yep. Find a specialty. Yep. But yeah. But anyway, enough of unicorns and puffy clouds. My dog needs a walk. And this has been a huge long stream, and I'm going to let Quindy go now. Only because Luca is getting his non-wisdom teeth, his lack of wisdom teeth out. His utter lack of wisdom teeth. Do we really know that these teeth exist? Like, seriously? Wisdom teeth? Luca? Really? Yeah, Quindy needs a walk also. Yep. All right, guys, that was probably my best stream I've ever done. At least the most informative one I've ever done. And I think we're done. Yeah, I already showed you. We'll do Kathy when I come back. I will be back next Wednesday, so I won't be streaming from my personal stream on Saturday, nor will I be here tomorrow or the next day or the day after that or the day after that. We're going to be adventuring with Kiki in the great outdoors in Washington State. So yeah, hopefully we'll have fun. And I hope you all have fun too, and we'll see you around. Bye-bye.